So one of the interesting things we can do with Technic Legos is we can change the angle of rotation using a device much like this. As you see, as I spin this arm parallel to the ground, it is causing this arm to move perpendicular to the ground because of the action of these two gears inside this box. We can make this using a box frame, a couple of cross axles, a pair of 4-spoked gears, and then a few cross axle sleeves which really help hold the axle in place. So as you see, this axle runs into the first gear here. These gears are interlocked inside the box holding them in place. And so as this gear spins, it's interlocked with this gear, and it causes this gear to spin perpendicular to this gear, changing the angle of rotation. My favorite way to set up a gearbox like this is by using one of these smaller, thin 12-tooth gears and then one of these larger, thick 20-tooth gears inside a gearbox. As you can see, they're set up almost exactly the same way the 4-spoked gears were, where we have one cross axle feeding into one gear. The gears are interlocked inside the box, and then the other gear is sending another cross axle out perpendicular to the first gear. So as you can see, we have changed the angle of rotation 90 degrees. So far, we've only shown you that you can change the angle of rotation in one direction at a time. But really, you can change the angle of direction simultaneously left and right, because we can use a longer cross axle and these cross axle connector sleeves that allow you to connect cross axles together to send the cross axle out each side of the connected gear. So as I spin this cross axle, it is actually causing this axle in the middle to spin, and then these pins connected to each side of the cross axle are both rotating at the same time. This is how a car works, whereas a car has an engine that drives a drive shaft. The drive shaft runs to a pair of axles and gears like this, and then this is how they transfer energy from the drive shaft to the wheels that are actually 90 degrees to the drive shaft. I've given an example here using 4-spoked gears, but as you see, as I spin this, it spins the wheels. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have a whole lot of these box frames, so we can't be using them for gears all the time. We need them for other things as well. So the question then becomes, can you change angle of rotation without a box frame? And the answer is obviously yes, we can. So here is a different setup where we still have the 12-tooth gear connected to the 20-tooth gear, and as you can see, we are still changing the angle of rotation. And we are doing that using pieces much like these guys, which are round at one end where the cross axle runs through and can spin freely, but then they actually are cross axle sized on the other side where they can be used to attach to a Technic beam, and then they're long enough to provide space for the gears to line up. So here is one using a 12-tooth and a 20-tooth gear. Here is a similar one, but these are both larger, rounder 12-tooth gears. And this one is set up much like we talked about a car being set up, where we can send the directional rotation in both ways. And then here's another one using 4-spoked gears, again exactly the same, so that we can send the angle of rotation in both directions if we want to. So one of the skills for you to master that's going to be very important is figuring out how to change the angle of rotation using gear setups, either using a box frame like these first setups that we talked about, or more importantly, not using a box frame, but still being able to change angle of rotation, because as I said, right now box frames are not real common and available to us.